Hey guys, this will be my first time analyzing or doing a longer review for a film, and I hope to give a greater perspective on this film since I think it's an overlooked gem. Dark Skies was a movie I saw back in 2013 with a group of friends, and it was actually my first time seeing a movie about aliens in this way. A lot of people credit Signs for that, but I was probably 1% of the population who saw Dark Skies before Signs and actually liked it. Most people online talk about how the film is unoriginal and really doesn't offer anything new to the genre and just steals a lot of ideas from other franchises, namely Signs and Paranormal Activity. I mean, just look at the cover. It's the most generic horror cover ever. I think the guy at the store even looked at me funny when I asked for him to grab the film behind the glass case for me to buy. And I'm a firm believer that movies take on a special quality depending on who you see them with and where you are at what time in your life. And this just happened to be a really good time for me. Again, it was my first time seeing a movie with this kind of topic. It was with a really fun group of friends, and I was just at that age where it could really scare me a lot more than it probably could now if I saw it for the first time. But it wasn't the scares that kept me remembering this movie all the way till now. It had an impact on me, something that stayed with me all these years, and something that I've sort of kept in and always wanted to talk about with this film. And that is that it's underrated, that it's a great movie, and I think it deserves much more recognition than it gets, and I hope that I can change your mind about this film. Now, if you haven't seen it, again, it doesn't look very impressive right off the bat. If you're judging a book by its cover here, you're probably going to pass it up. But I just hope to give somewhat of a greater perspective on it. I'm not going to analyze every single scene and do a full analysis, but just hope to provide a longer review. As I said before, Dark Skies is inevitably compared to Signs. Some of the reasons for this is just the basic premise. There's a family, they board themselves in their home, and it's all about aliens coming to try and get them. And I'm sure if you look at the movie this way, if you just log into the IMDb database and read the synopsis and read people's reviews, you can walk away and say, yeah, this isn't for me, this sounds like a ripoff and probably not as good as one of the best movies ever made, so I'm good on that one. And while I understand that viewpoint, from my perspective, it's a missed opportunity at seeing a really overlooked and great horror film. It also didn't help the way this movie was marketed. There's a handful of scenes that they used for trailers, and they're actually kind of funny when you take them out of context the way the trailer did, and it almost made the acting look bad and just made it look like a goofy movie. But what's weird is the acting is actually really good. All the performances are really spectacular, even from the kids, which a lot of times I don't like kid actors and their performances only because they sort of stand out to me. But here, it was perfect. And this film stars Kerry Russell as Lacey Barrett, Josh Hamilton as Daniel Barrett, J.K. Simmons as Edwin Pollard, Dakota Goyo as Jesse Barrett, and Caden Rocket as Sam Barrett. They're the two kid actors in this film, and they both did a really great job in meshing with the family really well and helping to create this sense of creepiness that just gets under your skin, especially the younger son Sammy. He is so good as this character, and as a young kid, it really shocked me. There are a few scenes with him that still stay in my head and just live there. It is hard to get them out, but I digress. So this film is always regarded as being unoriginal and containing nothing new to bring to this genre. And with the internet and the fact anyone can give their opinion out, including me, it seems like there are a few rules that have been set in stone as to what makes a horror movie or movies in general in each genre great. There are a few key strategies when it comes to a horror plot and the way a horror movie is made that seem to elevate it in people's eyes and have kind of been decided upon on the internet as being the best way to make a good horror movie. One of those things is not showing the monster or the creature or the whatever thing is out there too often or too early. A few movies come to mind when I say that. One of them is Signs. They do a great job of that. We catch a glimpse of an alien early on, and then we get that full image of an alien later in the movie, and it has such an impact when it happens. I think most people remember this scene. It was almost as shocking to the viewer as it was to the characters in that scene. Another film, I just want to switch it up. I know it's not a horror film, but the original Predator movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger. In that film, we don't get a look at the Predator for a really long time. It's only towards the end that we actually get to see it. And the first time I saw the movie had been after I had already seen other Predator movies, and it still was effective. It didn't matter that I had seen other movies with the creature in it. I knew sort of what I was expecting it to look like, but there was something about keeping it off screen and just this incredibly powerful force out in the middle of the jungle somewhere that kept it way more interesting and way more suspenseful. And Dark Skies does this masterfully. The whole first act of this film, and maybe even into the second act, get us in a routine with this family. The mom gets up at a certain point in the night. She comes and checks on her son, her younger son Sammy, every single night. The way the camera comes around the corner and we get that shot of him on his bed happens the same way every night she checks on him. It's so consistent, and the movie wisely has absolutely nothing happen for the first 2 times, I believe, that she does this. The reason I say masterfully in words like that is because I think it was intentional, and I think it creates a much bigger effect when on that 3rd time you're almost expecting nothing to happen because you've sort of been conditioned now that nothing's gonna happen. Your hand doesn't get burned when you touch the stove. It happened twice now, so it must be true. You know, our brains are like that. We look for patterns. This movie is so smart for doing it this way, and they really spend time establishing sort of a routine, a pattern of how this family operates and what's going on. So when on that 3rd time she goes to check on Sammy and we get our first glimpse at whatever creature this is, it is extremely effective. And that's not where the wise choices end. She also turns on the light, which makes whatever this thing was disappear. It happens so fast that you get a glimpse, a very quick glimpse. Even though it's so close to the camera, it's such a quick glimpse that it's not good enough to really know what you just saw, but you just saw this figure that scares the heck out of you. You can find that clip on YouTube, and even out of context, it is really, really scary. And just the way it's standing over her son's bed and her reaction, it's just so powerful. I still remember back in 2013 when I saw this film, when that scene happened, everyone I was at the movie with gasped and almost drew back in their seats. And that's not a reaction that you get often. I've seen many horror movies with friends, and it takes a lot to get people to that point, even when we were that age. But like I said, looking back now, I really believe the reason to be this movie established these patterns and got us conditioned to believe nothing would happen. It caught you completely off guard. And it also doesn't have a lot of false jump scares, so you're not already really jumpy. You're not ready to just jump out of your skin as soon as you turn a corner every single time, like most horror movies do. They get you on the edge of your seat, and there's no relief. And there's a benefit to that as well. If that's what the filmmaker is going for, then that's great. But what makes this movie special is that it purposefully, I believe, chooses not to do that. And as the movie progresses, more strange things begin to happen. There are messes in the kitchen, alarms going off on alarm systems claiming that every door has been opened and every window has been opened at the same exact time in the house. There's weird electrical issues. Every photo of their children is gone. But that's it. And it may sound like a lot, but it's really not. When you're watching a movie, it kind of gives you this feeling like they're not safe and there's absolutely nothing to fight against. There's nothing that they can do about it. It's almost hopeless. For me, at least, when I watch other horror movies that include some sort of possession or even like really hopeless things like that, it sort of seems like there is always hope. Like there's a priest nearby to try and exercise whatever this is, or there's some type of expert that can tell them the secret, or there's some Google search that the character does to find out how to get rid of the ghost. You know, there's all kinds of classic horror tropes that get characters out of these situations and provide the audience even with a little bit of hope. Dark Skies does not do that. Instead, we do get a scene with an expert named Edwin Pollard, played very well by J.K. Simmons. And he's this guy who's been haunted by the same thing, who's been marked by these aliens. And he's moved to this apartment building, and he explains the reason he's in this particular apartment building is because it doesn't allow dogs, and that's why he has a lot of cats, because dogs react to these things. And there's this aura about the apartment he's in, and an aura around him as well. He seems defeated by whatever this is. As much as he's willing to give them information and tell them about it, he's submitted to this thing. So you get this feeling like, even though he's an expert in alien abduction, there was nothing he could even do for himself. So right off the bat, we're presented with this feeling of hopelessness that our characters aren't going to be able to get out of this probably. And if they do, at what cost? And when J.K. Simmons' character starts explaining the way that alien abduction works and what they're probably experiencing, you're kind of holding your breath for the moment when he's going to say, and okay, so all you need to do is this, and now the aliens will go away and everything will be good. I wasn't thinking that back in 2013, but having seen a lot of movies since then, I was thinking that this time because it's a classic horror trope. You're just waiting for the out. Like, what's the magic thing the expert's gonna say that's gonna get this family out of this? But it never comes. He basically explains that these aliens will not stop until they get at least one family member, and he doesn't know why. All he knows is that they're marked. They have a chip behind their ear that makes them see things. That's sort of causing a lot of these things to happen. And he explains that these aliens will continuously invade their home, and progressively weird things will begin to happen until finally they make their move and one of their family members is taken away. It's a horrifying thought. Just the way this scene feels, just the way this apartment is, the lighting, the performances, the idea of how hopeless and horrifying this idea is. This has really stuck with me. It's an extremely powerful scene that is so well acted, it always sticks with me. Especially when J.K. Simmons' character explains to them that basically the invasion has already happened. It sends chills down your spine when you had already been watching the movie up to this point. It's very effective, but he does explain to the family that they can try to make this as difficult as possible for these aliens and maybe they'll give up. He says that he's seen it happen a few times and it's worth a shot. And it was at that point when I thought that maybe this was the out. Now I know what you're thinking. Didn't you just tell us that there was no out and that's one of the best things about this scene? Now I know I just said that, but spoiler alert, it doesn't work. And you can almost tell it won't work. During the finale, it's pretty evident that they're outmatched, that there's pretty much no way to stop them. And one of the family members is taken, and it's not the kid you thought. Up to this point, we believed it to be Sammy because he's been having a lot of the weird things happen to him. They found weird pictures he was drawing. We saw the alien standing over his bed. There's just a ton of hints that he's the one that's going to get taken. And right at the last second, the older brother Jesse gets taken away. I do watch a lot of movies. I did not see this coming. Now, I know there's people out there that are saying this is the dumbest twist ever. I saw it coming a mile away. And I get that. I feel like there's always going to be people like that. Hey, the first time I watched The Sixth Sense, I guessed the twist like halfway through and it kind of ruined the movie for me. So I don't know. I think it just depends on the person and if you guess right. I don't think it's a perfect twist that's going to work for everybody, but it is, I think, for me, a very effective twist. It didn't really give a ton of hints that that would happen, and from that point until the final minute of the movie, they don't give you any hope at all. There is no relief. You hear his voice come through a radio or walkie-talkie thing right at the end, but that's not like a sign that he's going to come back. He was actually kind of calling for help. It was freaking horrifying. I don't know how to explain the level of sheer horror that you feel when you realize that this just happened. There was nothing this family could do. He was taken away, and the movie has the guts to end with him yelling for help, and that's it. Not even Signs had those guts. There was a much better ending in Signs, I will say that. It was a great way to kind of pull the whole movie together. No one can match the way M. Night Shyamalan did that. I give him a ton of credit, and I will forever remember the ending of Signs. But in terms of feeling better at the end and having a more satisfying conclusion, it definitely had that. Mel Gibson regained his faith, and a lot of other things kind of came together that sort of felt like they had no meaning at other parts in the film, and, you know, in the classic Shyamalan fashion. Although this film doesn't have such a masterful conclusion, I do think it takes guts to end that way, and I imagine that had some effect on the way that people walked out of this theater. It's kind of depressing to watch a movie like that. I give it a ton of credit. To watch horror is to feel that sheer sense of dread, and this movie very effectively does that. And I have to mention too, at this point, there was probably less than 5 times we actually saw an alien, and when we saw them, it was in quick glimpses, and there was no like hand-to-hand struggle or anything. They were just this extremely powerful force that was just affecting this family emotionally and physically. Now that we covered a few key things about the movie and the ending, I want to talk about some of the random clips they used for marketing that sort of gave this movie a goofy look at the beginning, and I'll admit, I thought the exact same thing when I saw these trailers later. The biggest thing that the marketing for this film kind of hurted on was the fact that it took these moments out of context. If you look at these moments here, They look kind of funny when you're just seeing it this way, but when you allow the movie to immerse you in the feeling that it imposes upon you, utilizing very effective sound design with an eerie ringing to it that actually ties in with the chip on the back of their ear. I'll get a little bit more into that later. But when you allow the movie to immerse you in those things, these moments in context are very creepy. Each character has their own moments of blackouts where they can't remember a thing about what they had done for a small period of time, and they'll just wake up in their bed or wake up all of a sudden somewhere else and have no idea what transpired from that point till they woke up. And we find out from the expert J.K. Simmons' character Edwin that it's from the chip in the back of their ear. I think this chip is a very effective storytelling device. The reason I say that is because behind the ear is a really smart place to put it from a story perspective. It's kind of freaky. Like, as I'm saying it, I almost have the feeling like I want to touch behind my ear just to see what's back there. It's an area we don't look at ever, pretty much, and you don't touch often, so it kind of freaks you out because you start thinking, shoot, like, there could be something back there and I would have no idea. From a storytelling standpoint, that's really a smart device, no pun intended. And it causes this ringing for our characters at different times, and it's almost anxiety inducing when it happens, and this sound is used as part of the background noise at different parts in the film. Another really cool choice. It almost makes you feel like you're stuck with this thing behind your ear, like you've been experiencing this ringing constantly, and they do it really wisely during high anxiety moments, so it's hard to focus on that. It's more of a subconscious thing, and it's only something I noticed on my second watch. But it's small things like this that I think elevate this movie beyond being a forgettable, mediocre horror movie with nothing new or original to add. Although Dark Skies takes themes from other popular films and integrates them into the movie, it does an excellent job, in my opinion, of making them original, of providing something new without reinventing the wheel, and providing a really creepy experience that still sticks with me to this day. Despite its poor marketing and poor reception, I think Dark Skies is an extremely memorable horror movie that I hope people return to, and a cult following or something forms for this film. I think it deserves it, and I had a really good time talking about it because it's a film that's really personal to me. It got me more into movies at the time that I saw it. I've thought about it ever since that day, and I hope it encouraged you to go check it out. It's actually on Hulu right now at the time of recording this, so if you have Hulu, I highly encourage you to go check it out and let me know what your thoughts are on the movie after you're done seeing it. I know I sort of spoiled a lot of stuff if you hadn't seen it, but try to forget what I said and go check it out and kind of look at it as art and maybe try to immerse yourself into it and then come back and let me know what you thought about it. A word of warning though, if you try to go talk to other people about this movie, they 90% of the time have not seen it. I run into that issue a lot and it really stinks. And if you have seen Dark Skies, I'm curious, what did you think when you had seen it? Did you see it back in 2013 and do you have any thoughts on it? I'm curious if there's people out there that respect the movie as much as I do. Thanks for watching and let me know if you like these long form videos. Anyway, just wanted to share a little bit about a movie I saw back in 2013 that I think doesn't get talked about much. Hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching. See ya.